Rochester Cathedral come the relatives of 20 of the 24 Royal Marine Cadets killed on the march. Royal Marine and other service officers too, and comrades who marched with them, as the corporations of Chatham, Rochester and Gillingham pay tribute in a civic funeral. In Gillingham Cemetery there is a great mass of wreaths, some from as far as Canada and Gibraltar, and from someone unknown a small bunch of violets for each of the cadets who were in step until the end. Now at the cathedral, the service is over, and the cadets go to their last parade. No tragedy has so touched the hearts of our people, though each day 2 homes mourn sudden death on our roads. If by the fate of these young boys we are moved to make our roads safe for those who use them, then in death they have well and truly served their country, as was their aim in life. A mourning heart knows no comfort today, but time, with its healing touch, will ease this present anguish.
A visit to Kent when I was looking for another person, I come across these graves. So I thought, this is a story that needs to be told. These boys need to be remembered. This is the story of the Chatham Bus Disaster of the 4th of December 1951. At the time of the accident, it was Britain's biggest road disaster, with 24 cadets killed. It shocked the nation. On a damp, foggy evening at around 5:45, 52 Royal Marine Reserves cadets aged between 9 and 13 from Chatham were marching down Dock Road. They were on their way to a local boxing tournament at the local barracks. The cadets were led by Lieutenant Clarence Carter. He was in full service with the Royal Marines. They marched down Dock Road in rows of 3, which for some of them didn't know at the time would be their last march. Lieutenant Carter, for some reason, thought it would be wise to march in the road. Not only that, they were marching on the left-hand side, with their backs to any oncoming traffic. Along with this, the march had no rear lamps or torches to make themselves seen. Also at the time, a street lamp in the area had had a light blown out, so the area wasn't highly lit. 6 p.m. they came into the air of the broken street lamp. At around the same time, at the north end of Dock Road, a double-decker bus, GKE 69, driven by John Sampson, was coming down Dock Road with no headlights on for some reason. Sampson was an experienced driver of buses for 25 years. On the bus with him was a conductor named Dorothy Dunster. At hearing the vehicle coming down the road behind the marching cadets, Lieutenant Carter ordered the cadets to move in to the side of the road. But unfortunately he was a little too late, as the bus driven by Sampson then still had no headlamps on, just ploughed into the rank of young cadets. Sampson was driving at around 30 to 40 miles per hour when he hit the first cadets. The bus failed to stop until after he was past the first line of the marching cadets. Coming to a halt, Sampson got out of the bus to see what they thought was stones and rubble in the middle of the road, only then to discover what he had really hit. Sampson was seen to be stood in the road with his hands on his face, saying, "What have I done? What have I done?" There was screaming coming from all around the scene. Lieutenant Carter was also knocked to the ground, but with only slight injuries. He picked himself up off the road to discover the horrifying sight in front of him: dead and injured cadets strewn across the road. The person on the scene was a naval petty officer and 2 others. They described the scene as chilling. The naval officer helped 2 boys, and as he did, they passed away in his arms. The worst part of the scene, if you could call it the worst, was there was still children stuck underneath the bus. until one by one their cries began to be silent.
In Gillingham and nearby, they mourn 24 cadets who died as they marched through the dusk. Now, from the Catholic Church where they worshipped, 3 go to their last resting place, borne by men of the Royal Marines by whose side they had hoped someday to serve their country. Lightly they bear on the strong shoulders which carry them. They were so young. Behind them come those whose homes are darkened by their passing. There is a bishop to give them their church's last rites. The flag they honored hangs low as the little procession winds between the graves. Somewhere, a man suffers unseen. What happened that evening when his bus roared out of the dusk to leave death in its path, we do not yet know. He was a kindly man, a friend of many of them. Eager to serve, they were called to answer a higher role. It is not given to us to understand the mysteries of life and death. We know only that brief life is here our portion. How brief were these?
Of the 52 cadets in the ranks, 17 were killed instantly, 7 died later at night, 24 dead, 18 injured. Their funeral took place at Rochester Cathedral. The funerals were held a week later. Royal Marines were pallbearers for the cadets. 20 of the cadets were buried at Gillingham Woodland Cemetery, whilst the others were buried at the same cemetery not far from their comrades. I'm not going to go into the inquiry, but Sampson was fined £20 and banned from driving for 3 years. This was a request of the jury after seeing Sampson's remorse and pain for his forever and will be suffering. The inquiry said there were 3 main factors. 1, Lieutenant marched the cadets in the road with no lights, to which now there is a new rule that if you're marching in the road, there is now red lights behind you. 2, Sampson was driving with no lights on. And 3, an unfortunate placing at the time being the place of the broken street lamp. John Sampson stood in the hall for the makeshift morgue at the back until all the children had been claimed by their parents. He then collapsed to the floor. One wonderful story from this was 6 of the injured cadets, while still in hospital, chipped in together and bought Sampson a basket of fruit.